Okay, probably I'm having a little bit too much fun with this, but what's up guys? My name is Jakejames Lugo and welcome to the channel. So we finally get to talk about a game that I've seen since the very beginning when it was first announced, way back when, back at E3. I was actually in the audience for the PlayStation conference that year, and this is something that just looked very different and very intriguing to me. So now finally the game is out and we finally get to talk about it real and give it a proper review. So let's dive into Ghost of Tsushima on PlayStation 4. Ghost of Tsushima was created by Sucker Punch Productions for the PlayStation 4. They're the same people who made the infamous series on PS3. This game focuses on feudal Japan on the island of Tsushima during the late 13th century and around the first Mongol invasion of Japan. You play as Jin Sakai, a samurai nearly killed in battle when the Mongols arrive. In the struggle, Jin's uncle Lord Shimura is captured by the Mongol leader Koto Khan and imprisoned within Castle Kaneda, while Jin is thrown off a bridge and left for dead. He's eventually saved by a young warrior named Yuna, and begins traveling around the island of Tsushima to gather allies to strike back at the Mongols and rescue his uncle. Doing so requires Jin to look beyond his samurai code and embrace his persona as the Ghost of Tsushima in order to save his home. Along the way, Jin meets many different warriors on his quest. It's an intriguing story about the core themes that dictated a samurai's lifestyle, with a ton of action included as well. It's very obvious that a lot of the inspiration for Ghost of Tsushima came from different Akira Kurosawa films. Those movies really established a lot of the tropes and story beats that you find in many samurai-related media. Everything from the themes of honor and duty, to the emphasis on tradition and the changing times, the devs at Sucker Punch really did their research. So much so that even the architecture and the landscapes are really super accurate to the time period. Japanese media outlets highly praise the game for its authentic depiction of feudal Japan, which only speaks to how hard the dev team worked to make an amazing samurai game.
I found something that might help. Mongol battle plans.
Do they show supply lines?
One page has a map. It's a start.
Hand it over.
We do this together.
You've got your own problems, and I am the leader. I need this, Jin.
Now, a lot of the places that I'm seeing talk about this game, especially around release that are like the different reviews coming out, seem to be overly critical and overly harsh on it for reasons outside of the game itself. I think that's really silly and very unfair. I mean, if this subject matter is not really for you, that doesn't automatically make the game bad, especially in comparison to a lot of other big-name PlayStation games that have come out around the same time frame. You can't really look at the game like that. If you really want to enjoy what this game has to offer, I highly suggest that you check out some of the Kurosawa films that are out there. Different Akira Kurosawa movies have a lot of stuff that this game is heavily inspired by, but I would even argue you should definitely go check out some anime series like Rurouni Kenshin or Samurai Champloo or Samurai 7, anything of similar nature like that. You're probably going to enjoy Ghost of Tsushima a little bit more if you at least had that sort of foundation or bearing. But outside of that, is the story in Ghost of Tsushima any good? To be honest with you, yeah, I think what it does is pretty cool. However, I do have to say that some of the characters that do show up in the game, you don't really resonate with them too much. You can't really relate to them. There's a lot of different archetypes that are pulled from different samurai media that show up in Ghost of Tsushima depending on the character that you meet and stuff, and that's totally fine. Again, it's really doing the genre a lot of justice. But as far as relating to certain characters, there's very few that you could actually really resonate with, outside of maybe Jin, maybe Yuna, and a couple other side characters that pop up from time to time. This isn't the greatest writing out there. There is some really deadpan delivery and some dialogue, and some people have argued that the dialogue itself, the voiceover, especially for the Japanese audio, isn't really synced up right with the lips. That didn't bother me too much, but still, I do understand at least, wanting to at least have characters that you could really get behind, that you could really have an emotional attachment to. Even though there are emotional moments in this game, there's some big emotional moments that people have not talked about that I don't want to spoil, but still, I at least get where people are coming from. One of the strongest points of Ghost of Tsushima is the visuals, because my god, this is probably some of the best visuals that we have on the PlayStation 4, right next to a lot of other big releases. I mean, the dynamic lighting, the cinematography, just how vast and how luscious a lot of the environments are. I mean, all the stuff in this game, when you really moving around the island of Tsushima, looks like an ink or wood carving painting. It's just so amazing with just a lot of the different vibrant colors, a lot of the different details of the falling leaves and the rose petals and all this different stuff. It just looks so good, and it's pulled directly from a lot of different samurai media and really kind of, renders it in an awesome fashion. You have to look at some of this stuff. It's just so awesome. But outside of looks and outside of style, let's talk about the real important thing here, and that's gameplay. Does Ghost of Tsushima actually play very well? Well, if I'm being honest here, there's a lot to talk about, and it's actually pretty good, pretty positive overall. The core gameplay of Ghost of Tsushima isn't bad at all, but a few problems that some people have are related to how repetitive the experience can get. I gotta agree, because it's kinda true. You're doing many of the same tasks over and over again like any other open world style games. But I feel like once you're really immersed within the world and just roll with it, you're not really going to mind too much. You can explore the island of Tsushima with the wind as your guide to various locations, helping to liberate people from Mongol control and follow a number of Japanese-style legends. I love how the game uses the wind to give me a direction to my next objective. The breeze moves everything around me in the direction I'm supposed to go. It just looks so cool and allows you to really take in the gorgeous visuals. This also works so well within the context of the samurai setting, giving it a super cinematic and almost serene feeling, and I really love it. Riding around on horseback is great too. I could call my horse over at any time and he'll just appear right next to me. This can look a little weird sometimes and not make a whole lot of sense when my horse just appears out of nowhere, but it's convenient when I don't want to travel around on foot. It's one of those video game specific things that steps back from being too realistic and grounded. When I'm riding around the island, the controls just feel so good and allow me to focus on the majestic surroundings. Tsushima is pretty big and has a lot of activities to engage in, a lot of which reward you with various items, armor, and reputation as a samurai. This is important because you unlock new moves and other fighting styles with it. Just like in the movies, the more missions you accomplish, the more your legend as a samurai will grow.
You tortured and abused my people.
Accept Mongol rule, and your people will not suffer.
You are a liar and a coward. You deserve nothing less than death.
I will take nothing less than your head.
Okay, I know I'm having a little bit too much fun with this. Bear with me. This is a samurai game, okay? Anyway, I love exploring the island of Tsushima. I think, again, it just looks great and it just feels so good to move around, like with the controls. Everything is so intuitive and it's simple and easy just to get into and just start exploring. Stuff like that, especially for open world games, is really good. It kind of reminds me a little bit of The Witcher 3. I felt like the very same way in that game when I was exploring around the different environments I could go to. Now, as far as the missions themselves and the amount of things to do in this game, I think it's pretty good. Again, some people say it gets a little bit overly repetitive and overbearing, especially since there's so much stuff that populates the map of Tsushima. But again, it didn't really bother me that much because I was so invested in the world and the actual fantasy of being a samurai, just like roaming the fields, getting into like duels and fights and stuff. There's a lot of cool things that you can do that really go well with the motif of being a samurai. Again, a little bit overly repetitive, but not to the point where I felt like it was a detriment to the overall experience. Now, besides all that, there is a very important characteristic about the samurai, and that's going into battle, because let's talk about the combat in Ghost of Tsushima. Is it actually really good? Is it worthy of the honor of being a samurai? Yeah, it actually is. In a samurai game, you expect there to be some great combat. While not perfect, fighting in Tsushima can be pretty straightforward, but still challenging at the same time. Jin can slash his way through enemies in a combat system that kind of reminds me of the Batman Arkham games. You target enemies by pointing the left stick at them and using the face buttons to execute light and heavy attacks. The goal is to break through their guards and deal a killing blow, while switching between different fighting stances that are suited for different types of enemies. This is much easier than it sounds, because all you really need to do is mash a button in the right stance enough times to throw a Mongol off balance before you kill them. You can use items like arrows, kunai, bombs, and much more to help you out to do this. The only big issue is the lack of a lock-on mechanic, but you can still point in the direction you want your attacks to go when you're faced with a large group of enemies. The other side of combat is the stealth tactics that Jin can use during missions. You can sneak around enemies like a ninja and take them out quietly without alerting anyone. It might not be honorable, but it definitely gets the job done. Jin can use different ghost items to distract or open up opportunities to sneak by enemies, or even execute them. And the best part about this is that you can switch between your tactics pretty easily on the fly. You're never really punished when you're spotted by enemies, with a few exceptions on certain missions. When your cover is blown and enemies find you, they'll just converge on your position and you'll have to fight them off. This could be pretty tough when you're ill-equipped to do so, but with some fast reactions and some clever parries, you'll be able to cut down the opposition. However, this does lead me to one of the game's biggest missteps. Fighting within enclosed areas or small places can be very annoying when the camera can't focus on your target. Sometimes other objects or even Jin himself will block your vision and make fighting even more difficult. This happened to me a few times and I had to flee to a different location in order to refocus and regroup. Another issue I found is that when some enemies aren't always consistent with their field of vision or the attacks that they do in combat. Sometimes you'll be in front of someone and won't be spotted at all, while other times you'll blow your cover in really weird ways. Some enemies even have a tendency to spam certain attacks that force you to dodge and require a perfect parry to counterattack, leading you to getting hurt very badly often. These things don't break the combat, but they are enough to stand out. As a whole, however, Ghost of Tsushima has pretty good combat that not only respects the samurai theme, but also lets it be fun without being too overbearing with realism.
Why are these people outside the town walls?
The Mongols have surrounded Yarikawa. No one can get in.
Recruiting Lord Shimura's old rivals was never going to be easy. But now...
Now they need allies too. Think about it.
we help them drive off the Mongols, and they help us.
Okay, I know that the samurai didn't really use nunchucks, but let me at least have a little fun with this. Come on, man. And I want to make a point with that is because I think that it's actually kind of cool that Ghost of Tsushima doesn't really harp too much on realism. It still is very authentic to the time period and a lot of the stuff that went down, or at least, you know, how Jin can move and how Jin can approach battle. But still, it at least knows that it's still a game and it doesn't get too, like, caught up on trying to be hyper realistic. You know what I'm saying? Now, something I should say is that the game definitely rewards you for staying stealthy, remaining hidden, and taking out enemies without raising the alarm too much, especially on certain missions. However, at least in my experience, I found it a lot more easier and a lot less time consuming just to go in guns blazing and actually take on a lot of the enemies within strongholds rather than wasting time, or at least, you know, trying to spend time to stay stealthy. Again, you probably get a few more extra rewards here and there, but if you're in a rush and if you just want to get through a section without having to put so much time into it, you could just go in and actually start attacking everybody and cause all the enemies to converge on you. It's a little bit more challenging and sometimes it can get really annoying, but it's a lot more less time consuming, I should say, than just trying to be real sneaky all over the place. I feel like if you're going to do that and you're going to spend a lot of time doing that, maybe you should be rewarded a little bit more. Another thing I do want to mention are the duels, which I feel like there's no other game I could think of that was really kind of tackled like a samurai element, or at least a samurai trait of that storytelling in some sort of way like this. The duels that you get into where you could do a standoff against most of your enemies. Let's say you're like being stealthy around certain sections, or you're just coming up to, like, you know, a road where a group of enemies are there. You could get into this standoff where it's like a traditional samurai standoff. It's like almost like a quick draw thing where all of a sudden you and your enemy are like looking at each other, you hold a button, and as soon as they attack you, you can release the button and you will automatically slash them. It's a real badass thing and it makes you look really awesome, and you could upgrade it even further to take out multiple enemies from the group, because once you do that, now you're like in a big fight, and it's very similar to like what you see in a lot of movies, and it's very similar to what you see in a lot of other media involving the samurai. And like I said, I can't think of any other game that's really approached or at least included something like that, or at least done it in such a great way. Now, going back to a lot of the stuff that you could do on the island of Tsushima, there is a lot of different side quests and little extra bonuses you could really kind of invest time into. Are they rewarding enough? Are they at least worth the time? Some of them are, some of them aren't. It really depends on how you're feeling about this game already. Real talk, there's honestly not a lot to say about the side content in Ghost of Tsushima. Not because it's bad, but because it's pretty straightforward. When you're not partaking in a story mission, you can explore the island and discover a number of hidden collectibles and bonus items you can use later. There's also side missions that you can complete that give you more reputation and more items to use as well. Personally, I feel like some of the quests aren't always that rewarding and can feel a little bit like a waste of time. But others, however, are a bit more complicated, specifically the Mythic Tales that you find in Tsushima. These are longer side missions that not only give a big boost to your legend, but also unlock new equipment, new attacks, and other bonuses that really help you out in the late game. The best part is that you don't have to finish these in order to finish the main story. They have some cool looking intros and side stories you can follow, and they kind of remind me of those filler tales from an anime series. Like they're extra legends about the samurai, which the game really plays up by covering the different tropes of samurai stories. Like I said earlier, the game might get a little repetitive, but that doesn't mean what it does isn't done very well. It's actually one of the best samurai games released to date.
Is everyone alright?
Never better.
All things considered.
Good to see you, Lord Sakai.
Is it this cold everywhere up here?
You'll get used to it. Take any supplies we need, and prepare to ride for Jogaku.
Now, if I'm being honest, I actually like the Mythic Tales that you could find and discover throughout the entire island of Tsushima. I feel like they do give some pretty neat rewards. They don't really increase your reputation too much, but I love their presentation. I love their intro that they have. I love how, like, again, they're like these side stories that are kind of based on different samurai tropes. I actually think these are pretty cool, and I would love to see, like, DLC get implemented that offers a little bit more here and there, especially if it touches on the more mythological elements of Japanese culture. I think that would be pretty nice. So after everything that I've said, can I recommend that you guys check out Ghost of Tsushima on PlayStation 4? Yeah, I really think that this game is really awesome. It's a lot of fun, it's very interesting. The subject matter with the samurai is handled with great care and a lot of reverence. I think it's very cool, especially coming from a team that's known for the games like Infamous, that's a little bit more cartoony and less serious, a little bit more fantastical. I actually like what they did here. They really did their research and really handled this subject matter with some awesome care. I love the visuals. Like I said, it's probably one of the best looking PlayStation 4 games you could get right now. Again, the environments are just fantastic. Everything looks like a painting, or it just looks really awesome. Just to be immersed and just sit there and be serene with it. It's just something that's so cool. At the same time, I do have to say that there is a couple problems here and there that might be a little bit annoying to you, especially with some of the combat and close quarter areas or some of the inconsistencies with the AI. And some people might be a little bit annoyed with the lack of a lock-on feature, but I feel like those little issues aren't a big detriment to the total experience. Even the repetitiveness that a lot of people have brought up, I feel like the game does everything very well for what it needs to do, even though it could get a little bit overly repetitive in some instances. I still don't feel like that's a huge detriment to the experience. That if you like this genre of storytelling, if you like samurai, if you like open world games, I feel like you're really going to have a good time playing through Ghost of Tsushima on PlayStation 4.
Never-ending flow. The earth's cold grasp underneath. Ready for the end.
And there you go, everyone. Samurai JJ has finally reviewed Ghost of Tsushima for all of you. I hope you enjoyed this video review. I've been looking forward to doing this for a long time, like years now at this point, and I'm really happy that I finally got to see it through. But as always with any game that I review on this channel, that's just my opinion about it. Let me know what you think about all this stuff down below in the comments section. Tell me, are you a fan of Ghost of Tsushima? Do you like other games on PlayStation 4? Do you like any samurai media? Do you got any recommendations for people? Movies, anime series, whatever. Put all that stuff down below in the comments section. I'm really curious to see what you guys bring up. Thanks for watching this video, everyone. Go ahead and click the boxes on the side to see more videos and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to go visit my Patreon page for exclusive gaming content that I know you'll really love. Hope you have a chill day. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.